What if your containers basically took care of themselves? What if you could plant something once, forget about it for most of the year, and come back each spring to find it thriving, bigger, fuller, and more beautiful than the year before, without a single replanting run to the nursery? That is not wishful thinking. That is perennials. And these 15 specific ones are the laziest, most forgiving, most reliably returning perennials available for container life. Plant them once, give them the right pot and the right spot, and they reward you with years of effortless beauty. No replanting, no drama. Just the same gorgeous containers coming back every single spring. Let us count them down. Quick stop. If you are new here, welcome. Hit subscribe and tap the bell for fresh garden content every week. And if this video helps you build the low-maintenance container garden you have been dreaming of, drop a like before you leave.
Let us go.
Okay, let's go to the video. Container gardening gets expensive and exhausting fast when you are filling pots with annuals every single spring. The cycle of buying, planting, maintaining, watching them die at frost, and starting over in March is a loop most gardeners would love to break. But they do not know what to replace annuals with. The answer is lazy perennials, plants with compact habits, forgiving root systems, drought resilience, and the ability to overwinter in a pot without coddling. The 15 plants on today's list were chosen because they meet all of those criteria. They ask almost nothing, and they return each spring without fail. This is the foundation of a no-maintenance container garden. Let us build it. 1. Heuchera, coral bells, year-round foliage in deep burgundy, near black, caramel gold, lime green, or stunning variegation. Heuchera delivers 12 months of ornamental value from leaves alone, stays compact at 12 to 18 inches, and returns from a strengthening crown each spring with more vigor and more color than the year before. Bonus wands of tiny flowers in late spring. Tolerates shade. Genuinely beautiful in every month of the year. Raw lazy care. Part shade to sun. Well-draining mix. Water when the top inch dries. Feed monthly in growing season. Divide when crown heaves above soil surface every 2 to 3 years. Pot benefit. The most complete 12-month container perennial available, gorgeous in January as much as July. Compact root system, fits containers perfectly, and is genuinely well-behaved without aggressive spreading or rooting through drainage holes. Precisely watch out. Crowns gradually heave above soil over time. Normal behavior and not failure. Top dress with fresh potting mix to cover exposed roots, or divide and replant deeper. Not a sign of failure, just a scheduled maintenance moment every 2 to 3 years. 2. Sedum autumn joy hylotelephium. 4 distinct seasons from one pot. Tight, blue-green succulent buds in spring. Full mound through summer. Flat-topped flower clusters transitioning from soft pink to deep copper red in fall, and beautiful dried seed heads through winter catching frost and snow. Stores water in succulent tissue, one of the most drought-tolerant container perennials available. Returns faithfully each spring, more impressive every year. Ran lazy care, full sun, fast-draining mix with added perlite. Water deeply then allowed to dry significantly as succulent tissue handles extended dry periods. Cut to ground in early spring. Leave dried seed heads for winter structure and wildlife. Pot benefit. The most drought-tolerant container perennial on this list genuinely forgives missed waterings that would stress most other plants. 4-season ornamental contribution makes it one of the laziest, highest-value container perennials you can grow. So watch out. Divides itself by developing an open center after 3 to 4 years, the donut effect. Divide in early spring. Replant vigorous outer sections and discard the exhausted center. Plants reestablish quickly and bloom strongly in the same season. 3. Catmint, Nepeta. Walker's Low. Soft lavender blue. Flowers cascade beautifully over container rims from late spring through summer, then rebloom vigorously after one midsummer shearing for a second flush through fall. The aromatic foliage is deer and rabbit resistant. Bees visit continuously through both bloom periods. Compact, well-behaved in a pot, drought-tolerant once established, and requiring nothing beyond that single shearing to perform at its absolute best year after year. Rant Lazy Care. Full sun. Well-draining mix. Water during establishment, and it becomes drought-tolerant thereafter. Shear back by half immediately after the first bloom flush. This single step triggers the full second flush. No heavy feeding. Divide every 3 to 4 years. Pot benefit. 2. Reliable bloom flushes per season from one shearing, the laziest path to a flowering container that looks great from late spring through fall. The fragrant foliage deters deer and rabbits while attracting bees continuously through both bloom periods. Monthly watch out. Neighborhood cats are attracted to catmint and will roll in young container plants before roots establish. Protect with a wire cage for the first season. Once established and filling its container, cat damage is cosmetically inconsequential. 4. Sempervivum hens and chicks. The ultimate lazy container perennial. Tight geometric rosettes in deep burgundy, silvery blue, copper, and vivid green that look like jeweled art objects and require almost nothing from you. Stores water in thick fleshy leaves efficiently enough to survive weeks without watering. Thrives in the shallowest containers. Multiplies by producing offset rosettes that fill the pot progressively. Cold hardy to zone 3, it overwinters in the pot without any indoor storage or protection in all but the most extreme climates. Lazy care. Full sun to part shade. 50-50 potting mix and perlite. Shallow containers are fine. Water only when completely dry, less than you think. Remove dead rosettes after they flower. No feeding in lean soil. Pot benefit. The absolute lowest maintenance container perennial on this list, requiring the least water, the shallowest container, and the least frequent attention of any option here. Overwinters in the pot in zones 3 through 8 without any indoor storage. Multiplies itself, filling the container progressively at zero additional cost. Also watch out, individual rosettes die after flowering, completely normal and not a problem. The many offset rosettes produced before death continue growing and producing their own offsets, maintaining the colony indefinitely. Remove dead rosettes cleanly at the base. 5. Lavender, compact, hidcoat. Munstead. Silvery green aromatic foliage, beautiful year-round. Deep purple flower spikes, intensely fragrant in early to mid-summer, and Mediterranean toughness that makes it one of the most drought-tolerant perennials in container cultivation. In a pot with the lean, sharply draining mix it needs, lavender actually performs better than in most garden soils. Returns for a decade or more when given the right conditions. Repels mosquitoes and insects naturally. Attracts pollinators through the bloom season. Lazy care, full sun, non-negotiable. Lean mix, 50-50 with perlite. Water deeply then allows significant drying. Prune by 1/3 after bloom and never cut into old woody stems. Insulate pot or bring indoors in zone 5 and colder winters. Pot benefit. Container advantage is real. Perfect drainage control in a pot is exactly what lavender needs and rarely gets in garden soil. A container lavender in the right mix outperforms a garden lavender in average heavy soil virtually every time, returning fragrant and beautiful for years. Watch out. Poor drainage kills lavender, faster than anything else. Use terracotta pots over plastic as porous walls, allow moisture to escape more readily. Elevate on pot feet to ensure drainage after every watering. Wet roots through winter is the most common container lavender failure. 6. Coreopsis threadleaf, moonbeam zagreb. 5 months of almost continuous, cheerful yellow or pale lemon flowers from early summer through frost, self-cleaning, no deadheading required, in fine feathery foliage that handles the fast rushes of drying conditions of containers better than most perennials. Returns reliably from the root crown each spring. Prefers the lean, fast-draining conditions a container provides over richly amended garden soil. Thrives on benign neglect. Round lazy care, full sun, lean fast-draining mix, no slow-release fertilizer additives. Water when the top inch or two dries, far more drought-tolerant than most container plants. No deadheading, no heavy feeding as lean soil consistently produces the best bloom. Divide every 3 to 4 years. Pot benefit. Genuinely prefers the lean, fast dry conditions of a pot in full sun. One of very few perennials that actively performs better in a container than in richly amended garden soil. Self-cleaning 5-month bloom with zero deadheading is the definition of lazy container gardening done beautifully. Moths, watch out. Over-fertilizing is the most reliable way to reduce bloom. Rich potting mix and regular feeding produce lush foliage at the expense of flowers. Use lean mix without added slow-release fertilizers and feed only twice per season at most. 7. Coneflower, Compact Echinacea, Magnus. Bold, spiky-centered daisy flowers in vivid pink-purple from midsummer through fall, followed by ornamental seed heads that goldfinches harvest continuously through winter. Bees and butterflies visit throughout the bloom season. Returns from a strengthening crown each spring, producing more blooms with every passing year. Magnus stays under 24 inches, appropriately compact for a substantial container. One of the most ecologically valuable container perennials available. Raw lazy care, full sun to part shade, well-draining premium mix. Minimum 12 to 14-inch container. Water in first season, and it becomes drought-tolerant once established. Leave seed heads standing for winter birds. Divide every 3 to 4 years when the crown congests in the container. Pot benefit. Most ecologically valuable container perennial on this list, attracting bees and butterflies through the mid-summer to fall bloom season, then providing critical winter seed food for goldfinches when natural food is most scarce. Returns from a strengthening crown each spring with increasing bloom count. Watch out. Hybrid Echinacea in orange and double forms self-seed less reliably and often revert toward plain purple-pink after one generation in a container. For reliable, consistent return year after year, choose Echinacea purpurea straight species or the stable Magnus cultivar. 8. Black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia fulgida goldsturm, deep, golden, yellow flowers, with prominent dark centers from midsummer through fall in a compact 24-inch habit that stays tidy in a container without staking. Returns reliably for decades from a strong crown, blooming with extraordinary consistency year after year. No deadheading required for continuous bloom. Named Perennial Plant of the Year in 1999, and a distinction it still earns completely. One of the most dependable, no-fuss container perennials available anywhere. Ow's lazy care, full sun, average to lean, well-drained mix. Water during establishment, and it becomes drought-tolerant once rooted. No deadheading required. Leave seed heads for winter birds. Divide every 3 to 4 years in spring when the clump becomes overcrowded in its container. Pot benefit. Returns reliably for decades with consistent golden yellow midsummer to fall bloom. No deadheading, no complicated care, and no special treatment. The compact self-supporting habit and drought tolerance make it one of the easiest, most dependable perennial container performers available across its wide climate range. But also watch out. Susceptible to septoria leaf spot in hot, humid conditions, dark spotting on lower leaves by late summer. Cosmetic only, and it does not threaten next year's return. Improve air circulation and avoid overhead watering to minimize incidents in humid climates. 9. Hosta, shade-tolerant container king, the definitive container perennial for shaded patios and north-facing balconies. Bold, ribbed leaves in deep green, blue-green, gold, or beautifully variegated combinations create a lush architectural display that looks professionally designed. Stays impressive all season, sends up bonus flower spikes in late summer, returns from a strengthening crown each spring with larger, more spectacular foliage. The more established a hosta container becomes, the more impressive it looks. Ideal in 14 to 20-inch wide containers. Cram Grand Lazy Care, partial to full shade. Moist, well-draining premium mix. Water consistently as hosta is not drought tolerant. Feed monthly in growing season. Divide every 3 to 4 years in spring when the crown fills the container and bloom becomes crowded. Pot benefit. The only container perennial on this list that thrives in deep shade, filling the no-flower, low-light positions on balconies and patios with genuinely bold architectural foliage that looks more impressive with every season that passes in its container. No other perennial approaches its shade performance. Tullies, watch out. Slugs chew holes in hosta leaves overnight, particularly in wet conditions. Use crushed eggshells, copper tape around the container rim, or iron phosphate bait to deter them. Raising containers on pot feet makes slug access significantly more difficult and reduces damage substantially. 10. Daylily, compact reblooming. Stella d'Oro, compact reblooming. Daylilies produce multiple bloom flushes from early summer through fall in vivid shades of yellow, gold, coral, pink, and red from a strengthening clump of fleshy, drought-tolerant tubers that returns more floriferous each season. Stella d'Oro, a stays under 18 inches, returns for decades. Genuinely drought-tolerant once established. The fleshy tubers handle the fast-drying cycle of outdoor containers far better than fine-rooted perennials, making them one of the most forgiving lazy container perennials available. Plazan Lazy Care, full sun to part shade, standard well-draining mix, minimum 12-inch deep container, water consistently in first season, and it becomes drought-tolerant thereafter. Divide when crown fills container every 2 to 3 years or move to a larger pot. Pot benefit. Fleshy water-storing tubers handle container dry cycles with genuine resilience, far more forgiving of missed waterings than fine-rooted perennials. Multiple rebloom flushes, from early summer through frost, deliver one of the longest continuous bloom seasons of any lazy container perennial. Miliso, watch out. Highly toxic to cats. All parts cause acute kidney failure in felines. Place daylily containers in positions genuinely inaccessible to outdoor cats. This warning applies specifically to cats. The toxicity does not affect dogs or humans at normal garden exposure levels. 11. Yarrow, Achillea millefolium. Named cultivars. Named yarrow cultivars. Paprika, moonshine, saucy seduction deliver months of flat-topped flower clusters in deep red, gold, salmon, and soft pink on aromatic ferny gray-green foliage that deters pests and looks attractive even between bloom periods. Returns from the root crown reliably. Thrives in the lean, dry conditions of a neglected container more than in richly amended soil. Drought-tolerant once established. The perfect perennial for a gardener who forgets to water. Brown lazy care, full sun. Lean fast draining mix. No slow release fertilizer. Water during establishment only. No deadheading required for initial bloom. Cut back after for rebloom. Divide every 2 to 3 years. No heavy feeding. Pot benefit. Thrives on neglect in lean, dry container conditions, performing better with less water and less fertilizer than most other container perennials. The months-long bloom season from early summer through fall, combined with aromatic weed-deterring foliage, provides continuous value from the laziest possible care routine. Watch out. Named cultivars gradually revert toward plain white or pale pink through self-seeding over multiple generations. Deadhead consistently to prevent seed set diluting the named color forms. Divide every 2 to 3 years to maintain the vigor of the original cultivar. 12. Perennial Salvia, Salvia nemorosa, Caradonna. Deep violet purple flower spikes on near black stems from late spring through early summer, reblooming reliably with a full second flush after midsummer shearing. Completely deer and rabbit resistant. Drought tolerant once established. Returns for many years from a well-draining container. The upright form brings essential vertical drama to container compositions dominated by mounding and trailing plants. Bees visit continuously through both bloom periods. Strikingly beautiful and completely low maintenance after that single mid-season shearing. Rag lazy care, full sun, well-draining lean mix, water when the top inch dries. Shear by 1/3 immediately after first bloom flush, the single most important care step. No heavy fertilizer. Divide every 3 to 4 years. Pot benefit. 2 reliable bloom flushes per season from one shearing, vertical spike form that no other plant on this list provides. Complete deer and rabbit resistance and drought tolerance after establishment make it one of the most practically reliable lazy perennials. For sunny outdoor container positions, also watch out. Timing of post-bloom shearing matters. Cut back promptly as the first flush fades. Waiting 2 or 3 weeks too long reduces the second flush significantly. This single timing-sensitive step is the only real skill this plant demands across the entire growing season. 13. Creeping Phlox, Phlox subulata. One of the most spectacular spring displays of any container perennial. The entire mat disappears beneath a carpet of vivid pink, purple, white, or red flowers. Every April and May so dense it hides the foliage completely. Then it returns to clean evergreen mat coverage through the remaining seasons. It creeps beautifully over container rims, creating a trailing effect that looks stunning in raised planters and tall urns. Returns reliably each spring. The evergreen mat stays attractive year-round, suppressing weeds and maintaining container tidiness without any intervention between bloom seasons. Lazy care. Full sun. Lean, well-draining mix. Water during establishment, and it becomes drought-tolerant once rooted. Shear the mat back by 1/3 immediately after spring bloom to maintain density. No fertilizer needed in lean soil. Works beautifully in tall containers where trailing is an asset. Pot benefit. Spring bloom spectacle from a mat that lives year-round, evergreen coverage in every season. Combined with one of the most vivid and concentrated spring flower displays available in any trailing container perennial. Cascades beautifully over container rims without any training or pinching required. So watch out. Does not tolerate shade or poor drainage in a container. In either condition, the mat thins and loses the density that makes it effective and beautiful. Always site in full sun with a well-draining lean mix. In partial shade, substitute with creeping jenny or ajuga from this list. 14. Liriope, Liriope muscari. Big, blue, silvery sunproof, dense tufts of dark strap-like leaves 12 to 18 inches tall, evergreen in zones 6 through 10, reliably returning in all zones, producing lavender flower spikes in late summer, followed by shiny black berries in fall. Tolerates full sun to full shade, drought, compacted soil, deer, and urban conditions. Silvery sunproof adds gold and white variegation that brightens shaded containers. One of the most adaptable, most low-maintenance, and most dependably returning perennials available for container use across the widest range of growing conditions. Rye lazy care, full sun to full shade, standard or lean well-draining mix. Water during establishment, and it becomes drought-tolerant once established. Cut back to 3 to 4 inches in late winter, one annual cut. Divide every 4 to 5 years. Pot benefit. Most adaptable container perennial on this list, performing reliably in full sun, full shade, moist or dry conditions, and the widest range of climates. The single annual late winter cutback is the only significant care task required through the entire year, making it the definition of lazy container gardening done with structural elegance. Also watch out, always purchase Liriope muscari, the clumping form, not Liriope spicata, which can become aggressively invasive. They look identical in a nursery pot. Confirm the species name on the tag before purchasing. This single verification step prevents the most common Liriope management problem. 15. Creeping Jenny aurea, Lysomachia nummularia, the glowing chartreuse gold carpet that makes every container look designed. Creeping Jenny aurea trails beautifully over pot rims in luminous, coin-shaped leaves that catch light and create visual warmth in shaded positions where darker foliage would feel heavy. Spreads rapidly in moist conditions, rooting wherever stems touch soil. Evergreen or semi-evergreen, depending on climate. Returns reliably each spring in greater abundance. Perfect as the low trailing element in layered container compositions. Paired under taller perennials for the complete layered container look. Dran lazy care, part shade to full sun with most vivid gold in part shade. Moist well-draining mix. Water consistently in first season. No deadheading. Trim edges to keep within the container. No heavy feeding in fertile mix. Overwinters in pot reliably in zones 3 through 9. Pot benefit. The fastest filling container trailer on this list, covering pot surfaces and cascading over rims rapidly in its preferred moist conditions. The luminous chartreuse gold color provides year-round visual brightness and warmth in shaded container positions, where dark foliage would make the space feel heavy and uninviting. Else stow watch out. Can spread very vigorously in ideal moist fertile conditions. Trim regularly to keep within container bounds. If the pot is near garden beds, monitor for stems rooting outside the container and remove promptly. The gold form is marginally less aggressive than the plain green species, but still benefits from regular edge management. And those are your 15 lazy perennials, plants that thrive in pots, come back every year, and ask almost nothing from you in return. No annual replanting, no complicated care, just the same beautiful containers, returning each spring better than the year before. From the jewel-like sempervivum to the dramatic hosta, the fragrant lavender to the glowing creeping jenny, every plant on this list earns its container space in multiple seasons without demanding your weekends. That is the promise of no-maintenance container gardening. Thank you so much for watching. If this is the container garden reset you have been looking for, hit that like button. Subscribe and tap the bell for new content every week. Drop a comment below about which of these 15 you are adding to your containers first. I read every comment. Until next time, plant lazy, grow beautifully. and I will see you in the next one.